Some of these hoopers got injured, others got too old, and some just straight up ran off on the plug. But let's hop in there like swimwear, cause nothing. But before we slip and slide and glide into the list, our honorable mention goes to Timofey Mozgov, who the Lakers paid 64 M&Ms after one good playoff run. Ended up being unplayable by opening night of the regular season and still made $16 million a year because the cap spike of 2016 was criminal. Now, slinging the rock to the most controversial on our list, Mr. Bradley Beal. $251 million, the richest contract in NBA history at signing. Cause Nuzzin hasn't played more than 53 games in a season since 2021, and yet he's still active. The Suns mortgaged their future for him and it collapsed before it started. He doesn't make the main list, but you can't tell a story of bad contracts without him. But let's get into the real nitty gritty, starting with number 10. In 1989, a backup center averaging 4.7 points a game got paid more than Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. His name, John Koncak. The Atlanta Hawks gave him 13 M&Ms over 6 years and the NBA lost its mind. Buddy was so overbreaded, they nicknamed him John Contract.
Before that, and me just watching guys like John Koncak and David Robinson and Patrick Ewing, and me saying, I want to be like that someday. So.
While Koncak proved you could overpay anyone, teams spent the next decade proving it. Allen Houston was a legitimate scorer for the Knicks, a silky mid-range and 2 good seasons on his $100 million deal. Then his knees went, playing 20 games in his 4th year and retired, still collecting checks. Situation was so tweaked out, NBA created a rule specifically so teams could escape contracts like his, calling it the Allen Houston rule. Knicks never even used it on him, showing how legendary the contract really was. And when the bigwigs start writing laws because of your finesse, you doing something. Houston showed knees could end everything. Penny Hardaway already knew that. He'd schnitzeled his in Orlando twice before Phoenix handed him $86 million over 7 years. Their coach called him the most skilled all-around player in the game. He averaged 2.5 points in his final season. The quickness and explosiveness was gone. All that was left was the contract and Lil Penny reruns on YouTube. And just when you thought Orlando learned their lesson, Penny's knees, then Grant Hill's ankles. Different team, same story, worse outcome. Orlando gave Hill $93 million over 7 years in 2000. He was supposed to be the next MJ. Explosive, complete, effortless. He showed up and his ankles collapsed, then collapsed again. He missed 3.5 of his first 4 seasons. We never found out what Grant Hill could be in his prime, and that's the part that really hurts. Injuries keep killing these contracts, but Gilbert Arenas was a little different. Washington gave him 111 M&Ms in 2008. He'd already played 8 games a season before due to knee injury. He played 2 games in year 1 of the deal, and so far just looked like another bad contract. Then this crazy Negro bought an unloaded stick into the locker room over a card game debt. He pointed finger guns at reporters while the league was investigating. Commissioner David Stern eventually suspended him for the rest of the season. He played 21 more games in Washington. The injury was bad, and the guns were unforgettable. Arenas imploded alone. Jermaine O'Neal had an entire team implode around him. Indiana gave him 126 M&Ms in 2003, and for 1 year, it looked justified. Then the malice in the palace happened. Ron Artest charged into the stands. Players got suspended, the roster got dismantled, and O'Neal was left holding a max contract on a team that no longer existed around him. His body started tweaking out too. 100 missed games in the back half of the deal. Over halfway through, and you know what to do. Like and subscribe so I can afford to get me a cup of soup. O'Neal was a real star who declined. Bismack Biyombo was never a star. He had 1 good playoff series with Toronto in 2016. 1 series in Orlando handed him 72 M&Ms over 4 years, 18 mil a season. Meanwhile, he couldn't score. They already had a starting center, and his true shooting percentage that year was 51%. Biyombo couldn't figure out how to put the ball in the basket and somehow was worth 18 mil a year to the Orlando Magic. That's fugazi. Biyombo was never supposed to be the guy. John Wall was. 5-time All-Star, one of the fastest guards the league had ever seen. Washington gave him 171 M&Ms supermax contract. Then he tore his Achilles. Then Houston inherited the contract in a trade. Wall set out 3 full seasons. The Rockets ended up having to pay him 47 M&Ms to play for nobody. And when he finally came back, he was a shadow. The supermax era caught its first body. And it wouldn't be the last of the blood on the leaves. Wall got hurt, Zion just doesn't show up. New Orleans gave him 193 M&Ms. He was the most physically gifted player anyone had seen in a generation. 6 seasons later, he's played 214 games. That's it. The Pelicans can't seem to win with him, but when he plays, it's Liddy McTitty. The contract, like the 92 LA riots, but it never calms down. At some point, even the freshest of homemade sourdough ends up with a little mold. Zion tries. Sometimes. But Ben Simmons is what happens when you add up every bad contract on this list. The Nets inherited his $177 M&M contract from Philadelphia. He refused to shoot free throws, refused to play, cited mental health, which would be completely understandable, except he showed up at the Met Gala in a full designer fit while the team was being told he couldn't play. He played just 15 games in one Brooklyn season and never looked like an all-star in any of them. Then got bought out, walked away with every dollar. The most disrespectful use of a max contract in NBA history, and somehow completely legal. But that's all I got, guys. If I missed anybody, let me know in the doobly-doo. And as always, run on your toes, keep your mouth closed, lock your doors, and hide your hoes, and most importantly, live to fight another day.